Hello lovely people, I thought I would just turn the camera on today and put some makeup on and have a chat with you about some stuff that's gone on recently. So for anybody who follows me on Twitter, they may have noticed that I made a very abrupt decision to go to university, which I obviously made a video about a while ago, stating that I didn't want to go to university this year. I decided to go to university on the Monday of a couple of weeks ago and was here by the Thursday. So yeah, clearing works if anybody is considering it next year. I'm doing a forensic investigation course for anybody who wants to know, but the course I want to do could potentially go up to something stupid like 11 grand next year. So you know, I'd rather just pay the measly 9 grand that it currently is. It's National Poetry Day today. I thought in this video I would talk a little bit about poetry and poets and my favourite poet and what to do, because I've had this question quite a lot, what to do if you're not really on the poetry bandwagon but you kind of want to be. As you can see, I'm not wearing any foundation and that's because I can't be bothered. If you know me, you know that poetry is my jam. If you don't know and you're new here, hello. Usually I'm doing spoken word or I'm talking about feminism or something probably way more worth your time than this is right now. Recently I watched a video, I think it was Xana and Sam made, and they were talking about what they post on their channel compared to what they would actually quite like to post on their channel, or what they think sums them up. And Xana was saying that she was once introduced as mostly a musician but sometimes vlogs, and that made her kind of uncomfortable. And it made me think whether people actually see me as a spoken word artist or whether they see me as somebody who just makes videos about stuff. Who knows? Somebody tell me, do they regard me as a poet or a vlogger? I mostly started poetry because of a gentleman I talk about quite a lot called Mark Grist, who is a spoken word artist or poet who I saw at a Frank Hamilton concert. Frank's great. His new album's out, go check it out. But Mark Grist was the support at the concert we went to. He did a poem called I Want a Girl Who Reads. Must have been like 13. Oh my god, that's so long ago. And as somebody who read and was a girl, this poem was a big thing for me. I learnt all the words to this poem and then decided to write a response to it. So if you scroll really far down my channel, you'll find a video called I Want a Guy Who Reads. And Mark saw it and tweeted about it, and you know, huge deal for teenage Angela. He used to be a school teacher, and if you look up rap battle in YouTube, he is the first search result because he rap battled one of his ex-students. I was also an extra in a video that him and a guy called Guy Larson, who's also brilliant, made for one of Mark's poems. Yeah, you can see me be hit by a can in that if that's something you're interested in. Mark's been a huge inspiration for all of my poetry. His poetry is very modern and a lot of it is really hilarious, which I struggle hugely with. If you've ever listened to my poetry, majority of it's sad or angry. Funny is not something I do, but Mark does incredibly well. I thought I would compile a compilation of artists who I think are excellent, whether you are new to poetry or whether you are a old hand at poetry. If it's something you enjoy, whether you're another poet who needs some inspiration. My first recommendation is go to Button Poetry on YouTube and subscribe to them. I am a slam poet enthusiast, as it says in the majority of my bios on social media. Slam poetry is a method of poetry where it's basically just anger in the form of poetry. Anger towards social issues, anger towards personal issues, anything really. And some of the most beautiful poems I've ever heard are from Button Poetry. It's great because there's so many different styles of poetry. All deaf poetry, slightly overlap with Button Poetry, but it's slightly smaller poets. Yeah, if slam poetry sounds like something you're into, I would highly recommend those two channels. Savannah Brown can most definitely convince you that poetry is cool. I know that poetry is something that's difficult to enjoy if it's not something that's ever struck you as interesting. I know that poetry is not everybody's cup of tea. I've decided to also open up, I have a favourite poetry playlist on YouTube where I add all the poems that I really enjoy. I will open it up as a public playlist, so I'll link that down below as well for people who maybe need some inspiration or in a rut or something. Particular poems, Izzy Ink Pence, Hi I'm a Virgin. She did a response to Hi I'm a Slut by Savannah Brown, and that blew up and I'm so glad it did, because that poem is just so good. For people who struggle enjoying poetry, don't stress it, because you're not in the boat alone, if that makes sense. If you want to get into poetry, then I have a few tips for you. Go watch some rap battles. Don't Flop, who I'll link below, is not for the faint-hearted. I am a liberal feminist, but I still watch Don't Flop. Judge me if you want to, but some of the lyrical stuff in there is awesome. My camera ran out, so if the frames change slightly, that's why. Only watch or read poetry about stuff you find interesting. Sylvia Plath is amazing, but if you aren't down for that kind of stuff, don't read it. You're not a bad poetry lover if you don't read classic poetry all the time. Don't let learning about poetry at school put you off from enjoying poetry in later life. Just find poets that you really enjoy listening to and listen to them. Sometimes spoken word doesn't seem like it's treated in the same way that poetry that's published is treated. Don't ever feel like you're not appreciating poetry properly if you just enjoy spoken word. Tips for people who want to start writing poetry. You don't have to show anybody your poetry. You don't have to. That's not a requirement of being a poet. If you're worried about performing poetry, then know that when I do my performance videos, the ones where I stand and talk, they do take me a million takes. Send me your poetry. I love other people's work so much. I just love it. You can ask for constructive criticism about poetry and hate the constructive criticism you get. If you write poetry, read poetry, watch it, listen to it. Oh yes, feeling it. So I'll finish off really quickly by saying everything I've spoken about is linked below. All of the people and my Twitter and Instagram are linked below. If you have any questions or any queries or anything that you want to ask, please just comment it down below or tweet me. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy National Poetry Day and everything that poetry brings into your life. Oh, how soppy. I shall see you soon. See you later.